There's a saying, everyone can be bought by money. If it doesn't work, then add money. This woman swore she'd only eat vegetarian for the rest of her life. But now she's got a steak in front of her. The rich man next to her says, "Eat it. He'll give you $10,000 if you eat it." The heroine was shocked at the amount of money on the table. He bites his tongue and eats it. The tycoon is very satisfied. He likes to see others break the bottom line. If they don't want to, he will use money to smash them until they do. For example, the man next to him, he's been sober for 16 years, so the tycoon forced him to drink for $10,000. Or $50,000 if that wasn't enough. But he refused. He wants to stick to his bottom line. Then the rich man continued to take out a bottle of wine worth $50,000. Now not only can he drink a bottle of wine, he can get another 50,000. The uncle gave in. The tycoon was so excited that he shouted to the sky. It's true that all the dignity of faith in front of money. It's not worth mentioning. This is a charity dinner. All the participants are poor people who need money urgently, but only one of them could get the money from the tycoon. The poor have to play a game given by the tycoon. The last one to win gets the money. He can't play, can't afford to play. Then the game begins after the elimination. The butler brought in an electroshock device. The old man took one look at it and immediately understood that I'm not going to play. He took $50,000 and wanted to leave, but it's too late to quit now. The tycoon forced him to come back and sit down. The uncle was furious and cursed. He was about to go after the tycoon. The butler shot him dead. Everyone was scared out of their wits. They got up and tried to leave, but the bodyguards forced them to sit back down. Only the tycoon was calm. Looks like it's not the first time. The heroine then realized, this game is not that simple. From this moment onwards, their lives no longer belong to him. He can only try to survive. The game continues. The butler came behind the black man. He puts a hood over his head. Then he pulls out a remote control. The first round of the game begins. He has to choose whether to electrocute himself or someone else. He only has 15 seconds to think. If he doesn't choose, he'll be eliminated. The timer starts. Mercy chose himself. A huge electric current passes through his brain. The black man collapses straight into his seat without pause. It's the next turn. The woman had to choose between herself and the old man. The rich man hadn't even finished his sentence, so he chose the old man. The old man fainted on the spot. The butler woke him up by patting him on the back. The rest of them chose someone else. Soon it was the heroine's turn. The gentleman next to her didn't want to bully women. He chose to take the second shock in the 15th second. To receive the second electric shock, the gentleman immediately lost consciousness. He fell unconscious on the table. Now it's the heroine's choice. Seeing the gentleman's face, it's obvious that the black man can't take the second shock either. So she closed her eyes, and she bravely chose herself. At the end of the first round, the rich man left the restaurant. His men began to cover the floor and walls with plastic film. The gruesome and gory part is about to begin. It's a sick human game. Vegetarians get $10,000 for a bite of meat. Ex-alcoholics get $50,000 for a sip of booze. They did it for the money. But now the game is getting sick. The heroine has 30 seconds to decide. She has 30 seconds to choose between stabbing a gentleman in the thigh with an ice pick, or choose to whip the ex-army man 3 times. If she chooses neither, she dies. Only the last person to survive will win the big prize. The tycoon started to hurry. After weighing her options, the heroine had to pick up the whip. After the butler's demonstration, the second round of the game begins. The heroine was determined to whip her hard, and this whip is specially made. Each stroke will leave a bloody mark. After 3 lashes, the veteran's back is covered in blood, and he doesn't stop. Next, it's the gentleman's turn to choose, but strangely, it's the veteran who gets whipped. The clock is ticking. The gentleman's mind is broken. His conscience prevented him from stabbing a lady, and he can't whip another wounded man. But it was do or die. He had to go with the veteran. After 6 strokes, the veteran was sweating in pain. By the time the veteran chooses, he was the one who was whipped. The rich man's son laughed. The ex-military man realized that he had contradicted him, and he's got a grudge against him. Now he's using this opportunity to get back at him. Anger flared up. The ex-military man took off his tie. He puts it in his mouth and bites it tightly. He's going to fight the rich man's son to the death. The gentleman couldn't bear to ask the veteran to stab himself, but the veteran refused. He stood up for what he believed in. He refused to hurt anyone. He glared at the rich man's son as he waited to be whipped. But as the butler of the ex-agent can't match the strength of the first 2, the sound of each whip was like a blow to everyone's heart. After 3 lashes, The ex-agent's back is already bloody. Now it's Fatty's turn to choose. He looked at the dying veteran. He had to choose the ice pick. He aimed at the old man with a disabled leg, but he accidentally hit an artery. Blood gushed out immediately. The fat man used his belt to stop the bleeding, but it wasn't long before the old man died of blood loss. The butler pushed the old man out. The veteran man also fell to the ground. The butler went to check on him, and found he was still alive. It was the black man's turn to choose. Do you want to whip the veteran? Or stab him with an ice pick? The black man is torn. The clock is ticking. A gun is pressed against the black man's chest. Without further hesitation, he picks up the whip and walks towards the veteran. After 3 lashes, the veteran's breath is gone. He never wanted to hurt anyone, but he couldn't protect himself. Round 2 is over. The veteran is dragged away. There are only 5 people left in this game. Sooner or later, they'll all be dead. While the tycoon and the butler are discussing things, the rest of the men immediately slammed the table and fled. A few of the men took down the women under their command and ran out of the door. The black man took advantage of the opportunity to take care of the pursuing bodyguards when he was about to teach the tycoon a lesson, but he was shot dead. Under the threat of death, they were forced back to their seats to continue the game, and the heroine was captured by the butler. Now there are only 4 of them left. The final game has begun. The rules for this round are: choose to hold your breath underwater for 2 minutes, or choose an unknown card on the table. Fatty chose the card. On it was a firecracker that blew up, and the game requires him to hold the bomb and light it. The fat man panicked and the rich man reassured him that it might be a dud. The fat man's hands trembled as he lit the fuse. The fuse gradually burns out. The heroine screamed in terror. The gentleman wiped away the blood on his body, and the fat man died of a heart attack. The tycoon didn't want to give them time to digest. Immediately asked the gentleman to make a choice. The gentleman also chose the envelope. When he opened it, there was an eye inside. The gentleman is baffled. The tycoon tells him, "You'll have to cut out your eye." The butler immediately hands him a razor blade and a mirror. The countdown begins. The gentleman is devastated. He can't do it. The butler's gun is up his spine. The gentleman has to hold up the mirror, but he couldn't do it. He did it anyway. Otherwise, he'd be dead. Now it's the heroine's turn. He chose to hold his breath in a bucket. The tycoon set the time for the challenge to begin. The butler pushed the heroine's head into the water. Slowly he began to struggle, but with the conviction that he would return alive to cure his brother. He survived, and his envelope was opened and inside was a tooth. It meant pulling out all his teeth. Next up was the vicious girl. Afraid of water, she chose the envelope, but when she opened the card, there was a wooden bucket with 4 written on it. This means she has to hold her breath for 4 minutes instead. Vicious understood that the weak would not have a choice. She had to try, but 4 minutes is too long. She's already afraid of water, and she struggles like crazy when she gets in. Soon she's not moving at all. By the time the butler let go after 4 minutes, he had already drowned. At the end of the game, the heroine and the man sit down facing each other. The butler flips a coin to determine the order. The lucky heroine was given priority. This time the choice was either end it now, and both go home safely with nothing, or destroy your opponent with a pistol with only 1 bullet, and be the winner, and get the reward. The man is thrilled. He rushes to persuade the woman to go home. It's still a win-win situation, but is it really that simple?
I have 3 sisters.
The rich man throws his head back and cheers. Everyone applauds to celebrate the winner. Only the heroine cries. In the end, he took a bag full of cash. He got a bone marrow match for his brother. The tycoon celebrated his new life. When he came home to the light, he washed himself. The heroine came to her brother's side, but found that he was trying to ease his sister's burden, to relieve his sister's burden, and even more so, to free himself. He had already committed suicide by taking pills. In order to save her brother, he lost his dignity, faith and kindness. He sold his soul, and all he got was blood money. Ironic. It's true that what you think is a generous gift is actually a price tag, but can you really afford it?